At the time I started recording this video in mid-October, I have found some awesome indie games that I kind of wanted to share with the collective of the internet. This idea was kind of bouncing around in my head to do kind of a video talking about all of the new / demos or upcoming indie games that I have been asked to play and to check out. So welcome to the first iteration of the Indie Games Collective, which that title might change. It's a work in progress. Everything's a work in progress at this point. Same with my ADHD. I think being on medication also allows me to have more space in my brain to actually think of things and actually put them into action. So we'll see how long this lasts. We'll see how far out after October ends that I could get this video up. So good on you, future me, if you get this out in a reasonable time. I'm proud of you. And if not, what the fuck are you doing, my friend? So you're probably going to see some disjointedness because I'm not recording this all in one segment. The aim is to record this as I play indie games that are either demos, new releases, or previews for games that are coming out within the near future. For starters, this is going to be as spoiler-free as possible because the goal of these videos is to hopefully strike some interest if you have any interest in these indie games that I have been playing, so that you can go check them out for yourselves, pending that demos are still available, previews are still up, but still it's something you can look forward to in case you find interest in the games and the demos aren't available anymore. Also, this side of my hair is going to keep being a nuisance, so I'm probably going to just keep petting it. Don't mind me. So the first indie game we ended up playing for the month of October was Sammy, Jukes Twin Lakes. This game is tagged as an adventure, first person, choose your own adventure, developed and published by Waymill or Waymill. Pronunciations don't exist in my brain sometimes. And it's basically you're playing as this detective, a very average Joe Schmo detective, who is tasked on this giant missing persons case in a very small town of Twin Lakes. The developer has said he's taken some inspiration from Twin Peaks, so there are some of those like big shock value moments that you may see in Twin Peaks itself. I know some people may give it some discredit because of some of the body animations and some of the dialogue choices, but I think that's what kind of adds it to the charm. And also, to give benefit of the doubt, I believe this is the developer's first time doing a first-person open world game. So everyone's got to start somewhere. Everyone's first game isn't going to be perfect because making games is hard. I give some benefit of the doubt and I tried to overlook a couple of those things when playing the game, and it actually later on added to some of the charm. Both myself and my chat got really invested in the story of this anti-oil activist of Tammy Taylor going missing, and basically everyone in the town is so fucking sus in different ways. You have like all these different characters. Some of them like can be caricatures or like stereotypes, but it gives off that very small town vibe of like everyone's got a secret. There's all this like small shit happening in the background and having to go and like talk to people and whatnot to figure out all the dirt. And I know some people may find it annoying, but I really liked the warrant system in the game. Like you can't just go randomly searching through people's houses to find clues. There is a process that you have to follow, like a policeman would have to. You can't unlawfully search someone's car or house or their place of working without a warrant, unless if they give you explicit permission to do so. So that added step of like, you need to have reasonable suspicion to get a warrant to then go search that place, I thought was a nice extra touch to it that you don't often see in a lot of other detective games, as far as at least the ones that I've come across. And even though there's issues with like audio cutting out and dialogue getting cut over by animations not working correctly, which by the way, there is apparently real voice actors in this game, so that's always a plus. We hate AI in this household. I was able to overlook that because the story was just so intriguing to me, and my chat and I just kept having theories on like who could have done it, what happened, and I think that's what really makes this game really great. And I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Danganronpa or Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney or any of those kind of detective-ish games. I would suggest maybe giving this a try. Unfortunately, there isn't a demo that I can see for the game, but definitely give it a shot if that interests your vibe. And you can also check out my playthrough if you also want to experience the game. So the next game we ended up playing was called Pine: A Story of Loss, and I was asked by the publisher Fellow Traveler to give this game a shot, and we played the entire game preview, and there is a demo available as of right now. Who knows, at the end of the month if this demo will not be there anymore, but this game is set to release in Q4 of 2024, so just right around the corner. This game features a woodworker man living in a forest, very reminiscent of Maine is the vibe I got, who is dealing with the loss of his wife. And this is a voiceless game where they're using imagery and the soundtrack and flashbacks to tell the story of grief, of losing someone that you really, really care about and going through those motions and learning how to cope with the loss. I should have been prepared for the game to be very emotional, considering it is about loss and grief and going through those motions, but I was not, and cried on stream with no tissues and had to use poor little Trickster over here as my tissue. It definitely tugs at your heartstrings, even though there's no dialogue. Like, I love games that can make you feel things when there's absolutely no dialogue happening, to give exposition on why we should feel something, because that's storytelling. If you can do that, that's amazing. That means you've developed your game or your form of media in a way that is impactful without having to physically tell people why they should care about what is happening on screen. Also, my favorite minigame within the game, because there's different minigames you play as the male character, is this wood carving minigame, which I think is what the inspiration was for this story to be told. It's so pleasing to do the wood carvings. Like, I absolutely love it. It's so great. So if you play the demo just for the wood carving activities, I am here for it. Like, you don't have to care about the story, but the wood carving stuff is so much fun. Like I said, the demo is available as of the time of me recording this video. Not sure if it's going to be available after Steam Next Fest, but definitely give it a go. It's developed by Made Up Games. Speaking of fellow traveler, we also got asked to play a demo for one of my most anticipated sequels I have been waiting for. If you followed my channel for a while, you probably have noticed that I had played the entirety of Citizen Sleeper plus the DLC on stream, and I lost my ever-loving shit when I heard that there was going to be a second game in the series. And lo and behold, there's a demo available. Unfortunately, by the time this video gets uploaded, the demo is no longer available to play, but the game is slated to come out sometime in 2025. I want to say on the first half of 2025. If you're unfamiliar with Citizen Sleeper, basically it takes place in this science fiction space world, which is almost like akin to like Alien, where it's like futuristic but also feels very grungy in a way, so almost like punk or like steampunk, cyberpunk in that manner. And you play in both of these games as a sleeper, which is essentially an android, so they're different from humans. They have other things they need to worry about, but they're also still human in the fact that they still need to eat sustenance in order to survive. And this isn't necessarily a direct sequel to the first game, where we're not playing as the same sleeper we were playing as in the first game. We're still following another sleeper, and there's still some of the same game mechanics. So in this story, we are following a sleeper, the player character, who is again trying to escape someone who is trying to do harm to them by the name of Lane, and I have the hots for Lane because of course I do. I love villains. That is my guilty pleasure, I suppose. The main thing of this game, instead of being stuck in a location and you can't get off of that location as in the first game where you're stuck on the eye, you have the ability to travel. You have a ship and you can get a crew and you can go on contracts, and it's so fun. I really do love the addition of this game mechanic alongside of keeping the original dice mechanic from the first game. And the way I described it on stream was like similar to Dungeons & Dragons or Baldur's Gate 3. The roll of your d6, so your six-sided dice, basically determines the ability that you can perform an action. So if you roll a 1, your action that you decide to do either has 50% neutral outcome or 50% negative outcome. Whereas you roll a 6, it is a guaranteed 100% positive outcome unless if there's some modifier that lowers that 6 to like a 5 or a 4. I really enjoyed the dice mechanic from the first game because it really set it apart from other text-based RPG games, because you really had to make decisions on what actions are you going to take and with which dice are you going to use that action with. So I'm glad they brought it back into the second game while also adding some of these additional components like the contracts and building a crew and whatever else Jump Over the Age comes up with. I'm absolutely so excited for this game. Hello, this is Future Gray, and I literally just got home from work about 20 minutes ago on a Wednesday at like 7:30 in the evening, so it's been a week. Welcome to Peak Advising. So to kind of round out this video, we ended up playing 2 more demos during our game demo day that we had the other night on stream. The first of those 2 demos was called Two Falls, which is a interactive narrative experience developed and published by Unreliable Narrators, which takes place in the 17th century Canadian wilderness and focuses on 2 main protagonists. In the demo, the first protagonist you play as is Jean, who is a French woman who seems to be a new settler. And we end up also playing as Macon, who is an Innu hunter who is trying to figure out what is going on that's disturbing everything that's happening in the forest. The demo is actually pretty short. It's about 20 to 25 minutes depending on how much time you spend looking at the scenery, because the scenery and the graphic design and art design reminds me a lot of Firewatch, and I think that's what's very pleasing to my eye at least. Firewatch is one of my favorite games. I will stand by and die on that hill of that game being a fantastic game despite whatever my mother says about it. So when I first landed in the landscape of the game and was kind of beginning to explore a little bit, I was very intrigued and felt kind of at home with it, even though it's definitely a different game than what Firewatch is. And with the demo specifically, it also sets up kind of the mysteries that the full game is probably going to showcase and talk about. I love interactive narratives. I love when choices matter in games. Generally, all around, I'm really excited for this game, especially because I've always had a fascination of learning more about Indigenous and Native culture. So I'm really looking forward to this game to see what it's going to talk about. They did have Indigenous voices help back and create the game, which is also really great to know that it's not just white people telling the story of other people. And finally, the last game I ended up playing for the month of October is called Lumina Rush. It is essentially a 2D platformer type game where there doesn't seem to be really much of a story or anything. There's like a little snippet at the beginning that I kind of like poked fun at a little bit because I was not really sure what was happening, which is totally fair. Like maybe it's not meant to be anything, who knows? But the entire purpose of the game is to kind of just go through a level as fast as possible and try to improve your time. And there's a bunch of different mechanics. You can slide across horizontal spaces and also vertically. You can do wall jumps. You can swing from objects. You have to avoid also some spikes and whatnot. And there's these other blocks that allow you to jump really fast or really far. So there's a lot of different mechanics. For me, it kind of felt thrown at me really fast, but then again, I was just kind of going through the levels as I was completing them and not really going back and kind of mastering the techniques, which I think is part of the game, is to spend that time going back through and trying to complete the levels as fast as possible. I also swapped from keyboard and mouse to controller just for the wall jumping purposes because my fingers and brain do not communicate. Even with the ADHD medication, they do not communicate with each other. So trying to do the wall jumping on mouse and keyboard was just not hitting correctly for me. So I ended up swapping to controller, which, as most of my audience is probably aware, controller is not my favorite thing in the world. I will use a controller probably like 3% of the time when playing a game, and it's usually when I feel like I have to, and not because like I'm actively like, ooh, like I want to play this game with a controller. It's usually because like the game is kind of forcing me to play with a controller to some respect. The issue I had with controllers is I'm not super familiar with the buttons and remembering what button is what. So for me, that was a struggle, but I'm sure for people who are pretty comfortable playing platformers on either controller or mouse and keyboard are going to have a blast with it. The demo has a lot of levels available for you to play, so even if it doesn't sound like your vibe, definitely take a look into it. The art style is really simplistic. It makes it easy to focus on what's happening on screen. And also the music is also pretty boppin'. If anything, I'm looking forward to the release because I want the music on Spotify so I can listen to it on my commute into work. With that, that's kind of all the demos we played this month of October. I had a lot of fun checking out a wide variety of different games, and I hope for the month of November and moving on that I will continue finding time to play demos, whether it be with y'all on stream or in my own time. Pending Peak doesn't kill me. If any of these games are on your radar, let me know how you're feeling about them. But if they weren't, let me know if any of them piqued your interest and if you check out the demo for yourself, pending that the demos are still available, of course. And if there's any upcoming games that have a demo being released or that you know of, or a game preview, please feel free to let me know if you want me to play it and give it a shot. I'm more than happy to expand my horizons a little bit with some games. We also do love demos, and demos also do help indie devs specifically with getting their games out there and gauging interest in their game as well. But with all that said and done, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your time zone, and I will see you around either hopefully in the next indie game collective video, whatever I ended up titling this, or on stream, where as of this current moment, we're playing Alan Wake DLC, and we're going to be moving into Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Uncharted 4, a wide variety of other games. Who the fuck knows at this point? But regardless, I am going to go maybe take a nap. It's late and early at the same time, and I'm tired. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your time zone, and I will see you all real soon. My name is Erin Gray, Queer Riot Twitch streamer, signing off.